Why does the king stubbornly insist on sticking with this decision from 20 years ago?
I have no idea. And one of the things that they don't do in the show is they don't like establish that Rhaenyra was popular when she was a child. They called her the realm's delight, and she has since matured into a fat middle-aged woman who is just kind of never outgrew that kind of nasty teenage kind of girl attitude that she has. And I think
And she has a bunch of bastard kids.
yeah,
But
she has.
here but here's the other thing where the show just gets so freaking ludicrous is it's so painfully obvious that those kids are bastards that
Yeah.
they had. This is where race swaps in shows like it begins to grate on me
Yeah.
because it's an actual plot point. If it's not a plot point, like what's his nuts, Nick Fury in the Marvel movies, make it
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson, give him an eye patch. Who gives a shit, right?
Mhm.
But with Randall Thor in Wheel of Time, he needed to be an outlier, but not unbelievably so.
Yeah.
And similarly here, the king it's indefensible of the king in this show to do what he did in the previous episode.
Mhm.
They even had to insert a scene about a black horse and a white horse having a chestnut colt.
Yeah, which
Kind
is
of,
incredibly racist. I'm just gonna put that out there. But that kind of happens with the woke stuff, is it get themselves into these things where you end up like
but
being really bad like that.
but when there is some doubt behind the allegation that the three kids of Rhaenyra weren't Lucerys Valerians, they're actually was it Horace Strong or one of the Strongs.
Yeah.
When there's a hint that it could be on either side, the reader gets, or yeah, because it is the reader in this instance, you don't know who to root for.
Yeah.
Here, all this does is like, yeah, Rhaenyra, you totally have bastard kids.
Yeah, it
You
makes
cheated.
it
That was
so
it was
obvious.
your whole plan, and everybody knows about it. And the only reason you're getting away from it is because your father is inexplicably just in denial,
Yeah.
which doesn't make you look good, doesn't make the king look good,
It just makes
doesn't
all the
make any of that
characters look
sympathetic.
stupid, right?
But here's the thing: everybody that's weeping over King Viserys as being a good father, okay, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a horrible king. And with his death, he plunges his realm into all out war.
I know.
That makes him a bad king and a bad person.
Yes.
If you couldn't handle it, you should have abdicated or done something else. But he was setting up the realm to basically go nuclear when he died.
I know
And that
that's
makes him a bad person.
I know, and they don't really establish how he's just not a very fit ruler in this show
Yeah.
at all, and it's
Now the
like
book, he's not a good person in the book either.
no, not
But
really.
the book doesn't try and make him into a sympathetic father figure. They
Yeah,
turn him into basically a drunk.
yeah, and that goes in with the guy getting like fat and dying of a heart attack instead of
Yeah.
getting like the
Leprosy
zombie
that kills him
virus,
for 25 years from the throne. But
which is
anyways,
yeah. So this is
but Viserys, not a good person, not a good king.
no,
Can't root for him. Rhaenyra, you also can't root for her because, like, can you blame the Hightowers or Alicent or anybody else for basically thinking that their throne is going to get usurped and sent to bastards? Which
yeah.
maybe we as a modern audience don't really give a shit about that, but the characters in the setting do actually care
I
quite a bit
know,
about
and
bastardry.
I really don't like how they kind of like they make the women's friendship more important like than their own interests in like protecting their children. Like it's kind of silly. So then Rhaenys comes back. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
She just did 9/11, right?
Yeah, she just did 9/11 in like the kingdom and Seven Kingdoms, and she's
And
here.
yeah, on the team we're going to cheer for. You just 9/11 King's Landing.
Yeah, and it's so funny
Yay.
because everyone is saying like, "Oh, what happens at the end of the episode? Oh, that starts the Dance of the Dragons, not what happened in King's Landing." Like,
Okay. How did Viserys die? I could not say. You guys were just fucking there, and half of his face was gone behind a mask. And Daemon, for some reason, comes out of this, and he's like, "No, he must have been killed."
yeah, that is
He
that
could-
is so
he-
stupid. Like, God.
He stood up for like 5 seconds and said, "Oh, isn't it nice how we're all getting along?" And he couldn't even make it through the dinner. Like you knew the guy was basically on death's door,
He's a
and he
corpse.
draws the
I mean,
conclusion.
and
It's the
he
fucking
died. Like,
Crypt
what
Keeper.
happened to him? This show is so
And,
stupid sometimes.
and Rhaenyra is surprised that they decided to crown Aegon king instead of her brown-haired kids
And this
or
is the
herself.
funny
And
thing
this is
here.
a shock to it. Basically puts her into a miscarriage.
I know, it's so silly because this basically happens like the things in episode 9 happened the day before, and this is the day after. And I was kind of curious about this, and then the directors and the people at the end clarified it. Like, it's basically the stuff is happening at the same time, which just isn't happening in the books this way. But who cares, right? It's a show. So, I don't know. I just, this is so bad. A day, perhaps 2 days ago. And it's so silly because, yeah, I don't think she's going.
Viserys has been slain. It's like, who would need to kill? Like,
Who would need to
seriously,
kill that guy? Like, honestly.
all you had to do is blow on him, and he'd fucking fall over dead. That's how near
That's
death
so
he was.
silly. And then, like, David comes out, and then he thinks that he was killed too. Oh my god.
She starts. I can't believe those people who called all of my kids bastards would have done this to me.
I know. And then to make it worse, in the previous episode, they have to bring in the, like, Song of Ice and Fire retro.
The Whore Queen murdered my brother and stole the. You knew. Oh, God.
How did she murder?
Brother wasn't murdered.
He just died. That war isn't mine to begin with. Bitch, you just killed like 2,000 people in there. Like, who started this war? Oh my goodness. The Greens are coming for you.
She does ally with them in the book, right? Even though she strongly suspects them of having killed Rhaenys.
They don't really mention her suspecting that they killed Rhaenys. This whole they killed Rhaenys is a show thing, and to me, you know, when they get
even that was a body misdirect, right? Because I think Daemon probably did something, but through enough separation that nothing could get traced back to him, and it was like a jilted lover.
Yeah, there was a separation of time between the events, so like they could reasonably say, yeah, like we don't know what happened to this guy. It happened on the other side of Westeros, like in like Lannisport or something, and like Daemon wasn't involved, and it didn't happen like right after, and they didn't get married right after. But for that episode to work, they needed the drama of all of that happening at once, and I think that just created a lot of problems because it's like,
because now they couldn't correct this, but you're like wondering about this chick, like, why are you on this side, like, at all? Granted, I know that the son's not dead, right? That's another switcheroo thing that they inserted in the show.
They didn't want to do the like kill your gay tropes, so they like had him run off with his boyfriend, which is insanely selfish and mean to do to your parents who just lost their daughter. But, yeah, no consequences. So anyway,
she needs to be an ally of them because she has the biggest dragon.
Yeah, or
one of them.
Like in the book, Rhaenys is Rhaenyra's mother, and like, you know, she's always been on Team Rhaenyra because of that, because of the houses tied together, and she doesn't have this like, oh, you killed my son kind of thing.
And she might actually believe that she's the grandmother of those kids that everyone calls the Strongs, because guess what? In the books,
she has black hair.
But there's some ambiguity in the books as to whether it's a legitimate charge. Here,
there's no question. So they just look dumb, and like, so like if
there was a conversation between them, right, with Corlys basically saying people remember names, not blood.
Yeah,
like he just decided to become king of the cucks.
Yeah. Cucking.
Granted, it wasn't him that was cucked, but it's his house that gets cucked. But,
I know. I mean, it's so silly. I mean, like...
That was pretty racist, too, of the show.
Yeah.
Cuck the black old man.
Yeah, and, like, in the show, right, so Rhaenyra has... Her mother was half Arryn, and her, like, the Arryn side has dark hair, and Rhaenys was Rhaenyra's mother, and she had black hair, so there could be some off chance that your kids might have dark hair. But in this show, like, they're just so silly. But that's what they wanted to do, because, you know, diversity.